Welcome back to A Picky Vegan. I'm Erica and you're watching Diaries. Today I am making one of our most used vegetables for rice and spaghetti, and it is pan-fried broccoli. I found this recipe on YouTube from the YouTubers Evan and Katelynn. They're mainly DIY maker channel, but they posted this recipe for their what they call magic broccoli. And I never liked broccoli or many other vegetables for that matter. I would only eat broccoli or carrots, for example, if it was in dip, and I mean smothered in, or dressing, excuse me. But when I saw this recipe for broccoli that was pan-fried, it was crispy, it was spicy, it had garlic, I'm thinking, this sounds really good. And I've tried it, and I've been making it ever since. This is the only way I eat broccoli, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the process. If you want the actual full instructions, I would recommend looking up Evan and Katelynn Magic Broccoli. But essentially, we had a big bag of broccoli. It won't be able to be shown properly, but a pretty big bag. It is 48 ounces of broccoli. This will last us about 2 weeks, I believe. It's mainly my mom and I. Sometimes my brother and dad eat it, but it's mainly us, just the two of us. And we've done it two ways of either buying a bag of broccoli or buying the heads of broccoli. And it takes about, at least for me, I'm not the fastest cook in the world, but it would take me 2 hours to cut the heads of broccoli. And with the bag of the, I forget what they're called, florets, there we go. Because they're already kind of small, it takes about 1 hour to cut. They are smaller than the heads, but they're not as small as I need them to be, which I'm going to show you. Either way works, whether you buy the heads or the florets of broccoli. You want them to be kind of small. So the size you're looking for, it's about this size. The stem can be short or it can be long. I saved two of the short ones apparently. But these are the kind of sizes you want, at least for us anyway. You could leave them a little bigger. I've left some that are this big, just as a comparison, on my left here. I've left them this big. I personally like them small, and they crisp up easier when they're small. So what you're just going to do is just cut it down the middle. And I also say is make sure you wash your broccoli beforehand. It doesn't matter whether you get them out of a garden or a farmer's market or from the grocery store, you always want to wash them. We've gotten our broccoli heads from Walmart or even Supers. Doesn't really matter. And I would wash them, and I would start cutting them, and I would find this little green bug on my cutting board, so I had to wash them again. So just always make sure you're washing your vegetables and fruits. You can spray it with, hang on. We use this fruit and vegetable wash. You don't necessarily have to use this, you can just use water. I personally like to use warm water. I don't think it makes a difference, but just wash your fruits and vegetables. And if you do find something, just wash it again. So about this size. This isn't so bad either. You can also just remove a little bit of the stem. I don't remove them too much. There's a pile back here, and I'll show you why. Some of it is the stems I was talking about. There we go, about this size. And we're going to toss it in. But it's really up to you how much of the stem you want. Some of them I found are just too long. What you really enjoy is the actual head of the broccoli. So you'll notice these stems right here that are really thick, and there's a lot of little stems in it. That's because you get these really big heads, even though they're florets, at least in the ones we bought, you can still get these really big chunks. So instead of cutting one by one the little branches, which I have done, I usually just turn it to the side and just cut straight down. So I'll try to show you without blocking too much, but still cutting properly. And see how a lot of them just came separated? That's how you get these, and that's a much faster way to cut. And you can just tell by the gap and where they kind of join together. They join right here. So once again, I'll turn it and cut. And that saves a lot of time, because already I have about 3 pieces that I can just throw in right now. These, you can either cut the stem again because this joined right here, or I can just cut sideways. I kind of want the stems on this one, so I'll just cut it this way. And then if you really want some small pieces, you can cut it again. These will shrink a little bit. It is similar to spinach. They don't shrink a whole lot, but it's pretty significant. And I'm using a wok, which is a really big pan. It's almost similar to a pot. At least that's the best way I can describe it, but it's still a pan. It's just really high sides. It usually fills up about half before it's cooked, and by the time it's done, it's maybe 1/3 in terms of volume. Okay. Alright, so that is done. All these little pieces you can throw in there. There's already a bunch, so you don't have to worry about them per se. Alright, and now that's done. So I'm going to move the camera. I'll try not to shake it too much. I'm going to have to move the camera. My brother's cooking dinner for him and our dad, and they're going to have to take stuff out of the oven. So we're just going to do this so it's not quite in their way, and I don't have to move the camera so much. Let me just test. Yeah, that's not in the way. Good. Oh wow, our burner looks purple in the camera. It's red in real life. Oh, it's the shadow. Got it. Anyway. So when you're cooking the broccoli, you can either cook it in olive oil. We've used avocado oil before too. I've used hot chili oil for a little bit of spice. It's really good. But today we cooked it in butter, and we're using our favorite, Earth Balance soy-free butter. And this one's actually almost empty. And then for seasonings, you're going to add salt. We're actually using seasoned salt, which has a lot of different seasonings in it. There's salt, apparently sugar, paprika, turmeric, onion, cornstarch, garlic, seasoning I've never seen before, natural flavor, and then some other paprika in here. So this is really good. You want to add the salt in a decent amount of it because it helps draw out the moisture, which will help it get crispy. If you don't want directly crispy, that's fine. We like a lot of different things crispy in this household. I'm going to stir this. Especially since I've added some broccoli that is basically raw. This has been cooking for a little bit. So chopping the broccoli does take me about an hour, hour and a half. Cooking purely because we want it to be crispy takes about another hour. That's a rough estimate. But yeah, you want to add the salt, a decent amount, so it draws out the moisture. And you'll know when it's cooked. When it's a little smaller, it will kind of change color. Or if it starts to get just the slightest bit crispy. It really is up to you how crispy you want it. You see there's quite a bit here. So for color, it kind of gets a more diluted green, at least the way I season things and how I cook it. It's going to depend on how you cook it and how much seasoning you add. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn that off. Alright, so aside from the salt, you're also going to add pepper. And then also for spice, we add crushed red pepper, and we also add a decent amount of this. So if you do the crushed red pepper and the hot chili oil, it should have a really nice kick to it. And then the last thing you're going to add, which I've not added yet because it's not time, you want the broccoli to be pretty cooked by the time you add this, and that is garlic. We're using minced garlic, but the original recipe calls for garlic paste. We haven't had garlic paste, and this works pretty well. And the reason you wait to add the garlic is because garlic cooks pretty fast. You don't want it to burn. So you add that pretty close to the end. And then I'm going to add a little more salt. I already seasoned this ahead of time. You add that pretty much at the beginning of when it's cooking. Well, not just the salt, but all the seasonings, except for garlic. And I don't have any exact measurements. It's been to taste, and I just eyeball it. So you will be doing a lot of taste testing with this. And I think a little bit more pepper. And let's see. I'll wait on the crushed peppers. It's probably fine. Excuse me. The thing about adding on the pepper is it makes you sneeze. So I pretty much leave it on a high heat most of the time. I don't think I really turn it down that much. And see how there's a lot less? It cooks down a pretty decent amount. It's probably going to fill up this container, and that might be cutting it close. We'll see. If not, I do have a bigger container. Let's see. We have an old Cool Whip container. So one of these, and just to kind of show the difference in size. Yeah, there's no good way to do this, but we'll see. So I want to make sure I let it sit for a little bit. That really helps it get it crispy. If you're not moving around a lot, it has time to actually sit in the bottom of the pan and just get really hot. You don't want to wait too long though, because it will start to burn on the bottom. So you will have to scrape it a little bit. That's how I found to make it crispy anyway. It's just easier for me. So I think now is a pretty good time to add the garlic. The broccoli's cooked down a little bit. It's changed color a little bit. It's not super noticeable because a lot of it still looks green. You'll see some of the more duller looking broccoli. And I think this will also help it cook a little bit more. And we're going to add, if I remember correctly, 2 tablespoons. And it's roughly 2 tablespoons because this isn't exactly a tablespoon. It might be a little bigger or smaller than. And we're going to add a pretty generous amount. You like garlic in this household? Yeah, let's see here. And then as usual, you can always add more, but you can't take away. Oh, well, that just made a mess. I should have also mentioned you're going to want to use a non-stick pan for this, especially if you're trying to make it crispy. You will want to use a non-stick pan, believe me. This one is, thankfully, so we'll be fine. And that looks like enough garlic. So even though it still needs to get a little crispy, I'm going to go ahead and taste it now, just to see if I need to add any other seasonings. Try to get a good piece. I'm just getting a bunch of small ones though. So see, it's changed color just a little bit. I'm not sure if it's quite noticeable on camera. I think it needs a bit more of everything, actually. So we're gonna add salt, and this, at least when using seasoned salt, this takes a little bit more salt than if I was just using regular salt. So just be mindful of that. Yeah, we usually just use this. It probably doesn't need more pepper. We'll see. It definitely needs more crushed red pepper though. There's no kick at all. And this is definitely something I make ahead of time just because it takes 2 hours in total. 1 hour or so for cutting and then an hour or so for Cooking it, if I was using broccoli heads instead of the florets, it would take 2 hours to cut and still 1 hour to cook. So this is definitely something you make on a Sunday or a day you have off, and you just eat it throughout the week. And the broccoli should also be soft. I mean, when it's crispy, it'll be a little crunchy, but generally it's going to be softer. It won't really have that crunch, at least not the way we make it. But it's really good like this, I promise. And it's still not necessarily crispy, but there comes a point where I know it's just completely done. What I have to test is I wonder if it takes longer to get crispy or if it's even harder to get crispy because I'm now using butter instead of oil. Because for a time it was getting crispy, but so far it's just been cooked. I mean, it tastes good, but a little bit extra crunchiness from it being crispy would be nice. So I'll have to see if it's either using oil instead of butter, but then also if I use regular salt instead of seasoned salt. I'll have to see. Because it's on high, I haven't changed that. It's very much cooking on high. And then I wonder if it's because I'm using the wok instead of the regular cooking pan we have. The problem is it's just not necessarily big enough. So I could cook it in batches. We have a pretty big, it still has some high sides. Let me see if I can get it. We have a pan, that's gonna be really hard to show. A pan like this. There we go. So it still has some high sides, but it has a flatter bottom. It's not curved like the wok is. I don't know. I have 3 different things to test to see what gives better results for crispiness. If you've tried making this broccoli before or using some of the other methods, please let us know in the comments below. And we're going to taste it again. I was going to say you can see some of the crushed red peppers on there. Yeah, that's good. And surprisingly, the stem was actually still a little crunchy. So maybe there will be some crunchiness in here. Yeah, there we go. There's a little bit of crunchiness there. Or crispiness, excuse me. Nope. There you go. All right, and that's pretty much it. I might just let it sit here for a little bit. I'm gonna turn off the burner. It's done. I'll let it sit here and get kind of crispy on the bottom and just form a layer. But it is done. It's a really small batch now compared to filling up almost half the wok. So I think it will fit in the first container very well. Looks so good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We add it to spaghetti, whether we're using tomato sauce or pesto or even just nothing. I've added it to rice with no sauce. I do want to try adding it to a curry at some point. But even just adding it to rice is really good. And then on the side is also good, or just by itself. I know my mom's come in here in between certain jobs and just running in here, taking a fork, eating, I don't know, a couple forkfuls of broccoli, and then back to the next one. So it's very good. We'll have to try adding on top of burgers. That could be delicious. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you try this recipe. Let us know if you have in the comments below. And what other vegetables have you cooked in a similar way to this, or is there maybe a really good carrot recipe? My mom doesn't like carrots at all, and I'm just, once again, if there's not dressing, I don't really want to eat it. But let us know if you have any good or really, I don't know, interesting ways to cook vegetables that just adds a lot of flavor. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video. Alright, and this is the finished product of the broccoli. We're having just broccoli as a side with some Light Life chicken tenders, and I have some buffalo sauce here. Yeah, there's a little bit of crispiness, it tastes really good, and this is just one of the many ways we use the broccoli. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.